Hey YouTube, Mr. Black Mama 305 here with you again. And we're back again trying to do some more commentaries on things that we see going on around the country that pertains to firearm. And without further ado, we're just gonna get straight into this one. As you guys know that I'm two-way content, do a little bit of politics, do a little bit of motorcycles, dogs, trucks, you name it. I try to get into it. But today, man, this story comes out of the state of Florida, or even the state of Florida, man. And you never run out of stories that goes on in the state of Florida. And this one is up in Brevard County, this is in North Florida, where they literally busted a young man with 92,000 pounds of a substance used to make like some horrible drugs, worse than fentanyl. And today we're going to check out that stuff and then give my commentary.
Our attention to a story that takes us down to Florida after more than 90,000
Always in
pounds
Florida.
substance or a drug said to contain deadly amounts of opioid was seized in northern Florida. Joining us live now to discuss this and bring an update to this entire situation is Fox 35 Orlando's Marley Capper. She is joining us now. Marley, this is a huge amount that was seized by police.
Good morning. Yeah, the suspect has actually had prior involvement with police as early as the age of 19. That's according to the sheriff's office here. And right now they're calling this case Breaking Bad on steroids. Take a look at the video. You can see the deputies say they teamed up with the DEA, ATF, and Palm Bay police to confiscate 92,000 pounds of a substance used to make a drug known as 7-OH, a drug that's 3 times stronger than morphine. Florida recently passed an emergency law banning it. Investigators say the suspect, 26-year-old.
Now, look how sophisticated everything is there. Super sophisticated, man. And this, obviously, this is a young guy. Yes, he's been in the criminal justice system for a while, so he's pretty seasoned. But at the same time, this young man, he's not doing this on his own. He's getting help from somewhere. Someone's funding him. And he pretty much is a fall guy. You know, he can't really give up anybody because let's just this is the facility with which this 17-year-old kid is working with. Where does he get that type of money? He's not doing that much drug. There's people within our state that's funding, and you might think that nothing goes on in your state because you live in a certain state and they have certain standards and you don't hear about any crime in certain neighborhoods. But in your state, sometime right next door to you, there can be issues going on that you're not aware of that are highly detrimental to the rest of your community, and this is one of them. I don't put anything past people in the state of Florida.
To also have materials calling this case Breaking Bad on stick. Used to make a drug known as.
Now look at all that stuff that's there.
3 times stronger than morphine.
Look at all
Recently passed
the storage area.
Banning it. Investigators say the suspect.
This is very sophisticated.
Maxwell to also have materials.
I'm sorry.
To create large amounts of explosives.
Maxwell or Vata is not. I'm sorry.
Do serious damage.
He's not.
This guy was
of ammunition. Recently passed an emergency law banning it. Investigators say the suspect, 26-year-old Maxwell or Vata, also had materials to create large amounts of explosives, along with 36 guns and thousands of rounds of ammunition.
Guys, look at those guns, man. Those are like my dream guns. And you guys know that we don't promote any violence. Everything we do, we try to do it. We do it legally. I review firearms, and listen, if I were to come across or get a lot of these firearms, my YouTube channel will blow up, But Mr. Avata, he's not purchasing all these firearms. We're looking at probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of ammunition and firearm. Like each firearm, you have to, it's decked out with tripods, bipods, scopes, scope rings. If you know anything about firearms, you buy a firearm. If you see some of those really tricked out firearm, one AR-15, if you really trick it out, can go up to $3,000. And some of these are, I can look at it. If you're into firearms, and you're into that, that community, you look at this table and it's probably in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, not to mention 92,000 pounds of that substance. This guy is not just doing this on his own. This is not something he saved up his money and then he went and buy, all these things. He's being funded probably by the cartel. I'm just assuming here, or it's on a wider scale, and sometimes you think like the cartel is involved and sometimes it's just local authorities. There was recently a story here in Miami where they busted almost 18 police officers in a certain department that was working with the cartel. I think the captain was involved. I'm going to do a story about that one. So sometimes you think it is, one party, and sometimes it's a party that's even closer to you. The said people that are said to protect you are the ones that are violating your own neighborhood, man. So, this is crazy. The reason why I covered this is because, it has a firearms and guys, just to be careful going out there in public and starting a fight or something with someone. Listen, you'd see this guy on the street, you probably wouldn't think that he's disarmed. If this guy really went nuts, the damage that this guy could have caused. I mean, if they didn't catch this guy, the drugs that they would be able to make and put it on the streets is just devastating to our society and our community. So, I'm glad that, Brevard County Sheriff, did their job and they went in and, they investigated and they kind of stopped this guy. And I know a lot of people are going to be pissed. A lot of people just lost probably millions of dollars. And, we're going to listen to it and see how much this substance, how much it could have really turned the profit and cost on the streets.
Folks, this danger looks like right here.
Absolutely.
Everything that you see behind us, everything you see in front of us
Crazy.
is red flag for disaster. It is.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look, the guy was making his own suppressors, fully automatic weapons,
Fully
explosive
automatic.
devices. This guy was either looking to engage war or looking to arm those.
And the thing that he said is, he's looking to engage war because sometimes these people have mental health issues, man. And he could just be, just preparing just to defend himself. And if somebody comes in and try to take what he has, but you can tell by the way this is set up, all those firearms, one person doesn't need all that. So this was the beginning stage of a wide, of a big something that was set to go, really have its tentacles everywhere. They were planning to hire and harm and send people out in the communities because, if you're going to sell this type of drugs, maybe it was meant to send to another country. This could have just been the stopover, for where they're, transporting it to. We will never know. Unless obviously they could find out by interrogation, but the fact that someone in your community has this much firepower, and we know this guy's not going to the range just to plink. This is some serious stuff. So you guys just have to be aware that there's people in your neighborhood that that they're not as innocent as you might think, and you just have to have that sense of awareness, man, that sense of discernment.
You see, as you can see in the video, a 50 cal on a tripod.
Now that's a 50 cal on a tripod. The tripod alone, I'm telling you, the tripod alone is probably around $800. The 50 cal itself is another $5,000-$6,000 at least. That tiny little scope you see on top, it might not look like anything, but that's a $1,500, $2,000 scope.
Damage.
A lot of money.
Sheriff's Office says this is the
Everything there
largest
looks brand
of
new.
its kind in U.S. history.
Everything there looks
Federal
brand new.
Life in federal prison.
Well,
He is in the Brevard County
oh
jail.
my God.
Wayne Ivey says he is waiting on
That's crazy.
indictment. For now, reporting live for Live Now with Fox, Marley Capper. We'll send things back to you.
All right, Marley, thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, guys, this is what goes on in your neighborhood, and that's why awareness is a good thing, man. You can't just go out there and think you can take on anybody, or you see just regular people every day at the gym walking down the street. You never know who they are, what they're affiliated to. And the reason why I made this video, is there's some really bad people in your neighborhood, and if you think that everything is rainbows and and sunshines, and you hear people talk about defunding the police, you defund the police, they can't do their jobs to find this kind of stuff in your neighborhood, and if you don't have the proper police department. I live in Miami, Florida, where we have Miami-Dade County, I mean, I love Miami-Dade County officers. I've known a lot of them. A lot of them are friends. Broward, shout out to all the Miami-Dade officers, all the Broward County, everybody in Florida, great officers. I love the state of Florida, man. These officers really do their job. They really don't give you a hard time unless you give them, a reason to. That's why I respect Miami-Dade officers so much. City of Miami, Miami-Dade, Homestead, Cutler Bay, all those police officers. Not all of them. I don't know all of them, but the ones that I've associated myself with have been great officers. I love how they police their community, their quick response. This is not advertisement for any police department. Just shouting out because I have a lot of friends that work in different police departments. But with defunding the police, like with the Democratic Party, they would tell you, yeah, let's defund the police. The police have too much authority. There are too many of them, and then they would let stuff like this slide in your neighborhood, and then this could have easily spiraled out of control. If they didn't discover this drug, it would be on the streets. And that's why I do appreciate what President Trump is doing. Because of this, how President Trump is, he's cracking down on this. He's giving the police department, he's giving the justice department the leverage that they need to go in your communities and find things like this in your community. And with that, with that, you can't really hate on a president that wants to put his citizen first, who wants to protect the lives of his citizens. And I never understood how people really have this hate for a president who wants to protect his country. But it's never something that I try to understand. I mean, I try to understand it, but I never will. So just have that sense of discernment, guys, that when you are in your neighborhood and and you see people going on, sometimes they're quiet, sometimes you see multiple people going into a building, and that's not family members because you've lived there long enough, guys. Listen, sometimes it might not be what you think it is. And I'm not telling anybody snitch on anybody or anything like that, but just be aware, because if this, like I said, if this drug hits the street, it's devastating to the neighbor, to the community, to children that are dying from, fentanyl overdose and, numerous other drugs. I definitely don't support anything like that. And I definitely don't support, when they have firearms like this, because for people like me who really love firearms for the sake of loving it, just so you can protect yourself and your family, then they take it and do stuff like this. It just brings us back, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, and that's not welcome in the community. So I'm very proud of the Brevard County police officers who went and did their job, and these guys are always working hard. That's one department in the state of Florida that you always see on the news. They're always getting things done. And maybe there's other departments that are getting things done, but you never really see them on the news. But these guys, they really try to expose a criminal element in their neighborhood. I don't understand why people go to Brevard County and try to commit crimes, because they empower their citizens. They empower their police officers. So anytime they see any kind of crime, people are going to tell. Some telling people in Brevard County, and I love it. You live in your neighborhood, you pay your taxes, you pay your bills. If you see something, of course, tell it. I'm a telling mother. I say tell it, because you know what? You're protecting the kids in that neighborhood. You're protecting your family. You're protecting your property value. You're protecting the community and your country. So go out and tell as much as you can, guys. With that said, guys, I'm going to end the video there, guys. You just want to show this out, and I'm proud of the work that the police officers in Brevard County have done. And I know there's numerous other police officers across the nation here in Florida that are doing awesome jobs to keep our neighborhood safe and keeping firearms that don't deserve to be, on the streets, off the streets. With that said, guys, thank you guys for watching. Mr. Black Mamba 305 signing out. If you haven't liked the channel yet, like, subscribe, share the video. If you really want to support the channel, go ahead, give a donation. But the best thing you can do is a subscription and like the video. With that said, guys, have a wonderful day and happy holidays.